Welcome to the Holistic Plastic Surgery Show, where we dive deep into the hottest trends in health, beauty, and cosmetic treatments. I'm Dr. Anthony Youn, America's holistic plastic surgeon. Have you found that after turning 50, your workouts don't give you the results that you're looking for? Or maybe you've developed injuries that have slowed you down. Well, you're not alone. Our bodies change in many ways as we get older, so the way that we exercise needs to change as well. So on this week's episode of the Holistic Plastic Surgery Show, I'm joined by an expert in fitness for women and men over 50. We'll reveal the 5 components that should be a part of every workout, how you can eat more, exercise less, and still lose weight, discuss what's more important, weights or cardio, and much more. We'll show you how to make your workouts work for you. So let's get started. My guest this week is a wellness coach and fitness expert who helps women who've turned the corner on 50 get the vitality and energy they want by eating more and exercising less. She is the author of You Still Got It, Girl, the After 50 Fitness Formula for Women, and Navigating Fitness After 50, your GPS for choosing programs and professionals you can trust. She is the host of the Flipping 50 TV show and the Flipping 50 podcast, as well as a frequent blogger at Huffington Post, ShareCare, and other outlets. She has 32 years fitness industry experience and is an international fitness presenter and prior university lecturer. I'd like to welcome my good friend, Debra Atkinson, to the Holistic Plastic Surgery Show. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Debra.
Thanks. I'm so glad to be here. Always love to talk to you.
All right. So Debra is known as being an expert with fitness on people who are over 50. And I know the majority of your clients are women, but can you tell me, Debra, how you became known as the go-to person for fitness for people over 50?
Well, that's kind of the dirt. So I'm going to give you the inside scoop here. I was always kind of an old soul. Really, my parents were quite a bit older. My mom was already old and then married someone 10 years older than her when she got remarried. And so my parents were everybody's grandparents' age. So I was surrounded by that. I was very comfortable with older adults. So even as a college student, I was usually given the older clients and I loved it. You know, they were always very appreciative, probably more than my peer group was. Mm-hmm. So I grew up doing it and didn't realize what an education I was getting as I was learning from them as much as they were learning from me, I'm sure.
So this wasn't something like you turn 50 and you say, well, now I'm going to help people who are my age and older. This is something that you've kind of had a passion for even when you were much younger.
Much more so. I get them better now. So I thought I did. I thought I understood them, but you cannot, until you walk it, really get it. And so when I was 49, I, by choice, made some life changes and decided, I'm really going to take my business in a different direction, do something else. And I left safety and security. So I bought myself several stressors, and yet I got a lot more. So I had about 8 major life stressors, that you would tick off that list in about 14 months. And At age 49, I wasn't experiencing anything yet, but we know probably what's going on under the hood. It's not something I would recommend for anybody. But what I realized is, I had such a luxury early on. I loved endurance exercise, and I did quite a bit of it. Was a marathon runner, did several Ironman. And when I became my own boss, I was really in for a shock because she wasn't nice. She kept me at the desk a lot. And I had a sense of urgency that I really needed to work more. So I was finding I was only giving myself about 20 minutes a day to exercise. So it might be interval training. It might be weight training. It might be just a leisure walk with the dog. But after 14 months of that, I was the same weight, same body composition, and in both cases that was good. It was optimal, but I had more energy than when I had been exercising for hours a day. So I think now that we have so much science, we're reading more of that. That's not necessarily news to people, but I literally tested myself and proved it. And I do love exercise. It wasn't that I was, not wanting to do it. So it was a real learning lesson for me about what was happening with my hormones. So when I tested, and I kind of test everything that I'm going to tell someone else, this is what you ought to do. We need to know what these levels are. If you're not happy, you're not full of energy, you're not sleeping well, let's find out why. My hormone levels were much more optimal having that short amount of exercise. So thus, of course, I was happier. My mood was better. I had more energy. I functioned better. So that in turn, and hearing from so many women, nobody gets me, nobody understands me. They were still getting a textbook exercise prescription, and it doesn't fit anymore. When you go through hormone change, you have to change what you're doing.
So the hormone levels that change, obviously, as women go through menopause, that really can have a profound impact then on how they benefit from exercise and what types of workouts benefit them the most then.
Exactly. That's exactly spot on. And one of the things I like to say, we all start talking about estrogen, progesterone, testosterone a lot more. It's funny how that becomes household words, household terms, and wasn't necessarily. But really, those things get our attention, and it's still cortisol and insulin that are the biggest players in some of the things that are frustrating for women, the belly fat, the weight gain, the bloat. We still all have that in common. And those things were there earlier. We just didn't notice them. It's amplified.
So do you check then hormone levels on all of your clients? Is this something that you do, or is it just kind of knowing the general trend that especially women go through once they go through menopause?
Great question. I don't personally suggest that they test yet. If they have, we definitely take those, and I work with them. If they're already working with some functional doctor, someone who's helping them, what I try to do is integrate for them. So there's no run to this one for that, run to this one for that. And that's part of the problem. When you feel like you're getting conflicting information and you're trying to gather it all by yourself, that's a lot to handle. So trying to pull it together is one option. And then we go looking for, let's try to handle what we can first. And if changing for optimal nutrition, optimal sleep, optimal dealing with our stress, optimal exercise is not helping all of that, then let's look at what tests you should probably request and go and seek a functional medicine doctor who can help.
So then once you turn 50, a big part obviously is menopause around that area. How should women do exercise a bit differently? Because there are these definitely changes, and obviously our body changes, and men as well. But what changes should women make then once they turn around that age of 50? Obviously, it's not like you're 49 and 11 months and you do an exercise one way, then right when you hit 50, you change. But in general, around that time, how should women change how they work out?
Well, there's two answers potentially to that. So let's say you're asymptomatic. You're not having any problems. You don't fix it if it's not broken. That's always my school of thought. But I would suggest to someone who's not having any problems that you start thinking about doing a higher priority of strength training or weight training, resistance training. Then you're doing cardio, changing the way the cardio that you do is more interval training, but not totally eliminating that long, slow work. And I'm talking about hiking or biking or golfing or gardening for that matter, being active. We sometimes negate the NEAT, non-exercise activity time, in favor of what burns the most calories in this 30 minutes, and really if we're more active in our life, that formal exercise doesn't have to be such a presence, so you've got to look at your whole life, not just that 30 minutes. We got to pay attention to the other 23 as well.
I think that's a great point. My dad's a big exercise guy, and as he's gotten older, he has to make a point of having a certain type of workout every day. And so much of it's psychological, because I'll say, hey, we're going to go to the mall with the kids. Do you want to walk around the mall with us for an hour? And he's like, oh, no, I'm too tired. Yet he wants to go for a half-hour walk as an actual exercise thing, But it's the same thing in the end. It's just so much of it's, I think, psychological. So I think you make a great point there is people who are, as they're getting older and they're doing gardening and they're going for walks, and they're doing things like golfing, that is exercise and that is being active. And just like you said, it's not that they're getting their heart rate up to, a certain level and intense exercise. But that's where I guess then that interval training comes from. Do you recommend that they combine the interval training on their off time with these activities? Is that kind of what you do?
So, and here's why the interval training. So a lot of people equate that to, oh, that's going to burn more calories for the amount of time that I spend. So it's not just that though. So I want to emphasize it's not calories in and calories out. So, we can talk about food and how many you take in, but it's also with the exercise. It's not about how many you burn, and I've been guilty of this as a trainer and a marketing director for our personal training programs. We talk about torching calories and oh my gosh, I could be snapping myself with a rubber band all night if I did that for every time I'd done that. But it's really now about hormone balance. Mm-hmm. So, that walk outdoors, slower paced, may be what you need in order to calm down stress hormones and cortisol. That might actually end up helping you shed excess weight more than, say, interval training for an hour where you're just pushing and trying to burn more calories. You may actually be creating more cortisol and your body, your metabolism shuts down and says, no, I'm going to protect you from that. So we're going to hold on. So you've got to really listen to your fatigue level, your stress level, because stress is also, exercise is stress on your body. If you have emotional stress or financial stress or work stress, it all gets put into the same backpack you're carrying. And your body sometimes needs that slower, lighter exercise, and that's the most optimal thing for you.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a great point because it kind of brings that whole idea that people who have a lot of stress in their life and those people who say, look, I'm so busy and I'm working like crazy and I'm eating fine, but why am I gaining weight? It's because I feel like, I'm at work and I'm running around, I'm doing all this and I'm always active and I go to bed exhausted and I'm eating the same and I'm gaining weight. And we're finding that science is telling us is that cortisol, just like you're saying, is that you're in this state where your body is actually kind of over fatigued and that stress is causing you to actually gain weight. So interesting. I think that's interesting advice that you have of actually slow down. Don't necessarily be quite as active and go for just a nice stroll in nature and de-stress.
Yeah, it so often is not what people expect when they come to a fitness professional.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like writing checks, right? When you don't have any money in the bank, you've got to first, restore, and come back into the black before you can write those checks again. And so doing less for maybe a week, for some people it's longer, but sometimes that really pays off. And that gives you time. That person you described, who's doing everything right, going crazy. And, your body just started like jiving, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they are, but they're really not listening when they're in that motion on the hamster wheel. So it's getting back in tune with things like, am I hungry, thirsty, or tired? Mm-hmm. And just being able to listen, to, what does sound good? What sounds fun, enjoyable for exercise, as opposed to what do I have to do or should I do?
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great advice. And this is interesting because, we planned the talk today and so much of it's about exercise, yet there's so much of it that's actually not. And that you can do that's outside of that I think is so important actually for weight loss and being in shape and being healthy and your body being healthy. Well, let's go into a couple of other topics here. One of the things that you recommend are 5 components basically of every workout that are more important actually for women and men after they go through, after they turn around 50. What are those 5 components that you tend to encourage in your workouts and that people who are over 50 should consider trying to add or incorporating?
Okay, number 1 is warm up. Okay, that's not going to surprise anybody, but there are 2 parts to the warm up. So this is number 1 and number 2. So number one is elevating core temperature. So basically, if you're going to go for a run, you start with a walk and progressively get a little bit faster with your walk. You do the same kind of activity, but at a lower level, elevate your core temperature. What should be happening then is you're starting to breathe maybe a little bit more out of your mouth than your nose. So it's not completely at rest. You just are, beginning maybe to break a sweat and getting to the point where, okay, this is starting to feel like now I know I'm exercising at the end of that. So that's part one. Part two is the second, and this one's the one most often skipped and most often confusing right now. So if you're over 50, you were taught static stretching, right? One muscle group at a time. And, we've done away with that, and it's been a little while. But if we learned it when we were young and impressionable, it's hard to lose that train of thought. And so we still wonder, should we static stretch? I get asked that now, and it's been 20 years since that research came out. So here's the answer to that. If you have a known tight muscle tendon, you have an achy joint, and it needs a little extra TLC, perhaps, yes, you should stretch around that area, take care of that. But otherwise, easing into your exercise with dynamic movement. And the second part of that warm-up is what I call the functional warm-up. And it's where you're going to do something that causes you to need to pay attention. You can't be doing the grocery list. You cannot be thinking about what you're going to do next. You're actually maybe doing something with balance on one leg where your other hand might touch down on the floor. So you're using your core. Your right brain and your left brain are talking to each other, and you're really pulling things together so that you can recruit more by sending a stronger signal from your brain to your muscle for the rest of your workout. So that kind of thing, doing unilateral work, right leg, left leg, or right arm, left arm, or crossing the midline of your body by doing some rotation, great for your brain, but the reason it's great is it wakes up the rest of your body for later. Your coordination will be better. So a lot of people skip that. Okay, part three. That's your main set. So if you were going to do strength training, that would be what you've derived as, I'm going to do X amount of sets and so many repetitions in each set. And maybe that's your squats and presses and pulls. Or if it were your cardio, maybe today it is a long, slow walk and you're going to walk for 45 minutes. Or maybe it's interval training and you're going to say, one-on-one, I'm doing 1 minute hard, 1 minute recovery, and I'm going to do that for 12 minutes and then I'm done. So fourth is your core. Focusing literally on the core muscles being between the shoulders and the knees. So we're talking the front of the core and the back of the core, working all parts. And there are really 5 kinds of exercises you want to put in there every day. So I like to think of it as a potluck. No longer, and really never, should we have been doing this, but we were raised this way too. Nobody needs to do 200 of anything, okay? So if you are, stop right now. And instead, what you want to do is make sure you're doing something that has stability or stabilization in it, because you and I are sitting right here in chairs, hopefully with good posture. That's stabilization, and we spend most of our lives doing that. So stabilization exercises like planks, the traditional, everybody's pretty familiar with that, or a bridge exercise. If you're not able to do a plank, turning it over, lying on your back and lifting your hips toward the ceiling, that'll work. Doing a lateral flexion, so that one's often lost, right? But you use it all the time, getting out of bed in the morning, reaching down and picking something up off the floor, and then doing some kind of rotation exercise. The first movement you do in the morning, getting out of bed, involves rotation. And we don't always use that either. So stabilization, lateral flexion, rotation. You're going to do some back extension because we want to prevent, looking like our parents or grandparents, right? At some point, we're probably not going to do that completely, but that's the goal. And then last but not least, if you run out of time, forward flexion, but not in the traditional way. So crunches and sit-ups are just not my friend and not yours either. So that's a whole nother podcast probably. But those 5 movements, doing one exercise for each of them, say maybe for a minute each, 5 minutes of core, even 30 seconds of each on a really busy day, stays consistent, stimulates those muscles. It's a way to stay in great shape. And then the last thing, the 5th component, is the cool down. Now it's time to do the static stretch. That's when you really work on mobility and flexibility.
So you always do the static stretching after you're pretty much done.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. Yep. So, and here's a word of motivation for everybody watching. Mm-hmm. If you do that warm up, don't skip it, and do that cool down, the chance that you're going to burn more fat, more fuel during your workout is better, and that you'll be more comfortable doing it, so more likely to want to repeat it. That's much higher. And at the end, likewise, you're going to start your recovery before you even walk out the door and finish that workout, meaning the next one is going to feel better. You're going to be less sore between. So both of those are really boosters that you don't want to have. Those 2 bookends need to be in place.
So can you briefly then repeat those 5? Don't go into detail, but the first one then is the warm-up.
Warm-up 1. Warm-up 2, the functional warm-up, of doing something with balance. Yep. The main set, whatever your 3. Plan, your core exercise, and your cool down.
And the cool down. So, and you have all this stuff on your website, right, that people can go to and they can get hooked in. So Debra Atkinson is an expert with fitness in people who are over 50, whether you're a man or a woman. She can really help you. And if you're the type of person where you say, look, I've kind of done the same workout all my life, and now that I'm getting a little older, things just aren't working the same, and I'm not seeing the results that I used to see, and I don't want to spend more and more time exercising, that's not the solution. It's actually exercising smarter and knowing how your body can reacts differently now as you're getting older, and that's what Debra can really help you with. Her website is flipping50.com, and we'll go a little more into kind of the 5-day flip too that you're going to offer the people who are watching and listening today. We'll do that in just a little bit. I want to ask you a few more things here that I find really interesting that you have on your website and that you have actually educated people. You know, for me, when I work out, I'll work out just whenever it's convenient. So my kids go to bed and I'll work out then, or sometimes Saturday or Sunday mornings, I'll get up in the morning and work out. And I don't necessarily eat before I exercise. So one of the things that you are very specific about are the optimal times to eat before and after working out, especially as you're getting older. Can you explain what these optimal times are?
I will. So ideally, let's talk about time of exercise. So you're my worst nightmare right now, Anthony.
I don't know if anybody's ever said I was their worst nightmare ever before, but there's a first time for everything.
We can get that part out. Okay.
No.
So, ideally, for hormone balance, for cortisol, we want to work with it. And so exercise of intensity first thing in the morning or second thing in the morning, because your back could be injured easily if you pop right out of bed and start that exercise. But morning is the best time. And if you're waking up kind of naturally, and that's when you think the best, you've got the most energy, you can focus on programs, and maybe you lose a little of that edge in the afternoon, that's a sign cortisol is working for you. So we always give poor cortisol a bad rap, but it's also the energy hormone. If it's at the right level during the right time of day, it actually is helping us as well. So we've got to remember that flip side. So if you're exercising in the morning, it depends on you a little bit. If you are just absolutely, I'm not hungry in the morning, I don't like to force feed anybody, and suggest just eat. I think we have to listen to those hunger satiety hormones, because sometimes that's how we've gotten out of whack in the first place. We just eat out of mood or, emotion, and we don't pay attention. So if you've got an appetite, I would say don't start exercise hungry. Put something in. The closer to your start of exercise and the more you're going to have internal jogging, right? So that literally might be jogging or your elliptical trainer, the less you want in and the more easily digested you want it to be. So an example, I'll do what I call just a simple flip of a shake. So I'll take some protein powder and some almond milk. So this is a point where I don't want fiber. Normally I do. I don't want a lot of fat. Normally I do. But you just want something that's going to take the edge off your hunger. That's going to help you get through without being distracted. Because otherwise you're going to probably slow the energy that you're expending and defeat yourself a little bit. So one exception, you've got to test this. So some people do really well with a quarter of an avocado, which is totally opposite of what I just said. Don't have fat. But that's how different each one of us can be. So test a little bit for yourself. In general, you want foods that are going to clear your stomach really well and not keep you full and bogged down. Here's why that simple protein shake is a good idea for older adults. We're losing muscle mass at about 5 pounds a year on average after the age of 30 if we're not resistance training. And exercise is a breakdown activity. So really we're tearing down the muscle during the activity, and it's between sessions that the body recoups, overcompensates, and gets stronger. We need adequate calories and protein to do that. And as we get older, we don't synthesize that protein as well as we did. So it's relative. I don't as well as I did 10 or 20 years ago, even though maybe compared to a peer, I do, but that doesn't matter really. It's all about me to me, right? It's all about me. So it's important that we get a little extra protein. So if you have protein before, especially a vigorous, intense strength training session or a cardio session, that's going to help buffer that breakdown that even happens. So you're almost starting recovery before the workout starts.
And then afterwards,
yes,
you recommend waiting for about an hour, right?
Yeah, and that's so hard for some people. And here's why. Because I'm even right now in doing that and updating my science, contradicting what I would have said 10 years ago. So at that point, we were all hot on chocolate milk right away. You got to have chocolate milk. I know, right? Yes. Because we were told we need that little bit of sugar and we need that amount of 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 carbohydrate, or I'm sorry, backward, but protein to carbohydrate ratio to refuel the muscles. So we know better, everybody. So we're kind of discounting. That is not the rule of thumb, ideally. But what you do want to do is wait about 60 minutes. Between 60 minutes and 120, or an hour and 2 hours. The sweet spot is literally 90 minutes. Have that high protein, high quality protein meal or smoothie. If you're a smoothie girl, that's what it would be for me. That's when you need between 20 and 30 grams of protein. And the reason why is as we age, we don't synthesize our protein as well. And there's a blunting effect that is even more true as we get older. So it means that if you eat protein, typically we would expect that's really going to be helpful to our muscles. But it won't be as helpful if you have it right away as if you wait 60 minutes. Your body can use it to the right purpose much better.
So you hold off on eating, obviously drinking and rehydrating is fine. Yeah. And is there a drink that you recommend when they rehydrate? Just plain water, or do you recommend? Obviously, I'm assuming you're not a fan of energy drinks, and I'm sorry, like Gatorade and Powerade and those types of things because of all the sugar.
I was going to say we're not going to throw anybody under the bus, but there you did. You threw them under the bus. Okay. Yeah, water is best. I mean, really, and we're talking, I'm guessing we don't have any ultra marathoners here watching for the most part. So if you are simply trying to get in your 20 and 30 minutes, make it count, even up to an hour, unless it's really hot, humid conditions and you're doing it over and over frequently, water is best. So definitely, I would say pure water.
More than, I know there's some waters that are alkaline. Some people are also fans of coconut water. Do you find that those are beneficial, or?
Here's my take on coconut water. I think it's still a lot of sugar. It's natural, sure, but I think we fall into that trap. And unless, you're on a deserted island and that's all you have, I would say water, probably just
water.
Plain water. Yep, straight up.
Okay, so another question that I definitely would love to ask you about is what's more important, weights or cardio? Now, we've kind of talked a little bit about that, and I think as people get older,
Mm.
weights really become something that they don't pay as much attention to. They say, oh, well, they may go to a gym and they're these big hulking guys and lifting all the weights. And I think that it can be a bit intimidating for older people to go and grab the 5 or the 10 pound weights. So a lot of times I do find that when I'm at the gym, I see that people who are around the weights are the big muscle guys. How important really are weights as people get older? I know the answer here, but I'd love to have your explanation of why, so the people who are listening and watching saying, well, geez, I walk and I play golf and stuff like that. Why should they actually do some weight work?
Well, okay, so we're going to come back to that, but I want to make sure you have to hold your finger up. So we come back to older adults picking up 5 or 10 pounds, okay? Because
Okay.
I think you just stereotyped right there. I'm going to
Mm.
nail you, okay?
Uh-oh.
All right. But back to that statistic. So we know if we're not resistance training, we're losing 5 pounds on average. And let me tell you, you don't think you're average. I don't think I'm average. So that means we're either losing more, maybe less, all right? That adds up pretty quickly. If you're 50, or you're 60, do the math, right? So that's the bad news. Here's the good news. If you start a traditional strength training program, meaning you're going to focus on major muscle groups, doing 8 to 10 exercises 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for instance. So nothing crazy, not too time consuming. And if you were to do that for a month, we know that what we see is a loss of about 4 pounds of fat, which is good news, on your frame, and a gain of 3 pounds of lean muscle.
Hmm.
So now think about the scale. It's not going to change that quickly, right? So that's only a pound of loss. But what is going to change, here's the disclaimer, your clothes are not going to fit as well, right? You're going to have to go shopping. They're going to get loose.
Mm-hmm.
And you can expect that kind of change for the first 12 weeks, first 3 months. So that's a loss of 12 pounds, a gain of 9. You've got a little bit more weight loss, but you've got quite a bit of changes in inches, your body composition. And what people tend to notice is different things that they'll get compliments. Somebody will say, did you do something to your hair?
Mm-hmm.
They don't understand why you look better, but they know you look better.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough to keep you going. If you can stick that out, you've got it.
Well, there are studies too that show that exercising regularly can actually help you look younger too.
Yes.
And I think there's a lot of factors involved with that.
Yeah.
But there are actually numerous studies that do show that people who do exercise regularly do seem to age more slowly.
Yes. Well, and it comes back to, we hear so much about mitochondria, right? Mm-hmm. And it used to be, we just accepted the fact that our mitochondria would, dissipate, fall off, not be as effective. And that was simply a part of aging. Well, not so much. The baby boomers came along and said, we're not going to take any of that. So researchers, who my suspicion is are baby boomers, found that when they had people do both, they tested cardiovascular and they've tested strength training. When they had them on a regular, reasonable, and I'm talking safe and sane, not a crazy program, mm-hmm. that within 6 months, they had the same mitochondria as 20-year-olds. So we can reverse aging. We know it. And so if that happens inside, of course, it's going to have an effect on your skin as well as your mood and your cognitive ability, your brain health.
So Debra Atkinson is an expert for fitness in women and men over the age of 50. Her website is flipping50.com. And you do have a free gift for the people who are watching and listening today on flipping50.com. It's F-I-F-T-Y, not the 50, but flipping50.com/5, the number 5, day flip. Can you explain what this is? And actually, I can read off of the website as well, but if you can explain what this free gift is in the meantime.
Absolutely. So there's a two-parter, really. So it's a quick at-a-glance look. If you're already exercising or if you're thinking about getting started, most of us, the number one complaint is I don't have time. Mm-hmm. And, I don't think it gets any better after retirement, depending on where you are. But we all are in that time crunch. So it's a quick, what would be your highest priorities? What's really going to help you age better and look better, feel great, and take less time. So there's a boom, there's that. And then there's a 5-day flip is 5 days of short 15 to 20 minute videos so that you can feel successful. You can sample what it's like to do a weight training workout that is high priority exercise or a cardio or mobility exercise and what planning a week looks like. And you do it with me.
So on this free gift, basically all you do is you give your first name and your email address, and in 5 days, you'll learn which exercises will strengthen your core and make you feel energized, not tired, the right nutrition for your body, healthy ways to manage stress, and how to activate the fountain of youth for your skin, muscles, and joints. And so all you have to do is go to her website. It's flipping50.com/5-day-flip. That's the number 5-day flip. And we'll have a link also on our podcast page as well. The other thing that I was really happy that you offered to do for us is you made a video for us that we're going to put at the end of this podcast show. So it's only on the video podcast. So if you're listening to the podcast today, check out the video podcast. After the show is over, there'll be a short commercial, and then we'll have this several-minute video where Debra's going to share some of her exercise with you. Can you explain what's going to be in this video for them?
Yes, absolutely. So what I'm going to do is hit, and only would I do this for you, Anthony, but I'm going to hit on the most common questions I get, the frustrations. I know I should be doing squats or lunges, but they both hurt my knees. I know how good they are for metabolism. They hurt my knees. I want to get rid of the bat wings or the bingo arms. I can't do it. What am I doing wrong? So I want to give some tips on how to do that, how to do it correctly without getting injured while you're doing it. And then the timing and what else has to be true if you're going to see those pretty muscles that you're working so hard to get. How do we make them reveal?
I think that's great. So stick around. If you're listening to the audio podcast, check out the video podcast. Stick around after the last commercial for this great exclusive video that Debra's going to share with us only on this podcast. And if you're watching, then stick around afterwards. So one thing I ask everybody at the end of every show is to give one kind of outgoing tip, kind of a piece of advice for people to hopefully remember after the show is over. What would Debra Atkinson, the owner of flipping50.com, the expert for people who and fit for people over 50 who are looking to stay fit, vital, healthy, exuberant, what would that piece of advice be?
I've got to narrow it down to one, right? Okay.
Narrow it down to one.
Lift weights. If you're not lifting, start. If you're lifting, challenge yourself. Am I really doing enough weight as much as I can?
I think that's great advice. So the importance of definitely weightlifting as we get older to help with our bones, our joints, and our muscles. Well, Debra Atkinson is, her website is flipping50.com. Check out flipping50.com/5-day-flip to get started. It's a free 5-day, kind of a course that you get 5 days for people who want to get started to learn how to optimize your workouts, your health, your nutrition as you're getting older. And even 50, now 50 is a new 30, so
that's right.
It couldn't have come at a better time. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It's always fun to talk to you.
It was a blast. I'm Dr. Anthony Youn, America's Holistic Plastic Surgeon. This is the Holistic Plastic Surgery Show. We'll see you next week. Do you want to look 10 years younger without having surgery? Well, my best-selling book, The Age Fix, will tell you how. I spent the past 17 years learning the secrets to turning back the clock, and have written all the best of these secrets in this book. This includes the Age Fix Diet, simple changes to what you eat that can make a huge difference in your appearance. I'll share with you a simple skincare routine to keep aging and wrinkles at bay. And I'll share with you the best secrets to treat every single beauty and aging problem there is, from age spots to wrinkles, saggy skin to bad breath, saddlebags to hair loss. And almost all of these can be effectively treated without surgery. So are you ready to turn back the clock and kick Father Time's backside? If so, check out The Age Fix. Now, if you purchase it on my website, dryoun.com, you'll get over $10 off the cover price, free shipping, and you'll receive several free gifts, including a bonus chapter that you can only get by purchasing the book there. Thank you for making The Age Fix such a huge success.
Hi, I'm Debra Atkinson, host of the Flipping 50 TV show, and I've got 5 special tips just for you because you're here. This is one of the makeshift sets for shooting Flipping 50 TV. And what I'm going to do is give you some answers to questions you may not know you have about the 5 most common questions or challenges that women I work with ask. The first 3 are all about exercise, and if you've got any trouble with this back of arm, bat wing, bingo wings, stick around because you're going to like that one. And the last 2 are going to help you with the other lifestyle changes that you make to make these things really take. So number 1, squats. I have a lot of women who tell me they understand why I want them to do squats because they boost their metabolism so much. Working your biggest muscles, the glutes, the quads, and the hamstrings, one of the best ways that you can actually boost your metabolism, which means burn more fat, gain a little bit more lean, be stronger, faster, have more endurance, love your life more. But if you have knee issues, squats are no fun until they get the right tips. So I want you to know if you have bone on bone, this won't apply to you. We cannot bring back your cartilage. However, if it's just that you haven't been doing them correctly, this may help you do squats. So I want you to watch me from the side and watch a proper squat. So what I want you to pay attention to is that I hinge at my hip, my knees, and my ankles. And I'm going to sit down and then come right back up. And watch that again. And I'm going to hold it at the bottom. So my knees, if I drop a line straight down, are over my toe, somewhere over my foot. They're not further forward. I'm feeling a lot of weight back here, and my weight really is in my heels. My toes are dancing in my shoe. And then I'm coming up. Now, here's an incorrect squat. And this is a lot of times what I'll see in the gym, and women will tell me I can't do it, and I'm saying I can't do that either. And I have good knees. This means my weight is going forward. And if it goes into my quadriceps more than it goes back here, it's in my knees. So I have to shift back, and immediately I feel better. So I want you to practice that. And if you can, do it in front of a mirror to your side so you actually see yourself sitting back. It'll throw you off balance the first time you do it correctly, simply because you're not used to it. But imagine if your toes were against a wall, your knees could not go forward anymore. And then here's one more tip. Put your hands on a chair when you do this, and you may have a pain-free range of motion and a place where it's not comfortable for you to go. So find that place where you hit, oh, that doesn't feel good, and stay above it, but still do the squat. It still has value for you, and you make it stronger so that you lower that place of pain, or it goes away completely. Lunges are our next one. Similarly, it's knee strain that gets you every time. Part of that, again, is the same problem. Is you become aware that that knee needs to stay over your heel or your foot, or behind it, you're going to be much better off. So instead of doing forward lunges, I don't do them myself, and I'm really fit. I have no problems with my knees. So, knock on wood, I'm not going to buy any. So I can do a lunge to the rear much safer, but I'm going to show you this first step. This is a stationary lunge. Down and up, so I'm going to get all the benefits. Pay attention to, it's not forward and back, it's down and up. Do this one beside a mirror too to check your form. It's really important that knee is either over the ankle or slightly in back of it. That back heel is up and off the ground. So try that. If you're ready to progress, you're going to do a rear lunge, so you're standing, knees are right where they should be over your feet. And all you have to do is keep that front knee in place. There's no need to go forward where you're putting the knee at risk like you do in a front lunge. So stay with the back lunge for all the benefit and none of the risk, and you'll be a lot more comfortable. If you don't feel stable doing that, put your hands on the back of a chair. Stabilize yourself at first. See how that feels. Okay, number 3, here we go. If you're doing something else and you're multitasking, come back to me. This is about bat wings, and it's important. Can you get rid of it? Yes. It's going to take some exercises, but it's also going to take the last 2 things I'm going to give you. So when you're doing bicep curls or tricep presses, I'm not even going to pick up weights to show you. What I want you to remember is you've got to reach fatigue. So if you're doing small weights, you're going to keep those elbows in, shoulders down, but pick a weight where you're going to fatigue with 10 or with 15, and that'll be the last one you can do. Now here's a little sneak peek. Lifting with a long lever coming up this way is not something most people do, but the bicep muscle crosses your elbow and your shoulder. So if you can do both and then do a combination lift, so you've got 3 exercises right there, right? Here's 1, here's 2, and then here's 3, putting both of those together. Now you're already way ahead of me if you're thinking you're going to do the same thing on your triceps. You're going to bend over or you're going to sit down because you need a little angle forward, elbows up, and you're going to first kick back. That's exercise 1. Then you're going to go long arm because your triceps crosses the shoulder and the elbow too. And a lot of people don't do a long lever. So you're only getting half of the tone. The last exercise is straight and flex. So you do that kick back in the middle. So choose a weight that's not super heavy because by the time you've done all those repetitions, that adds up. Now, that's how to get tone in the muscle. My last 2 tips. Number 4 is if you want to work on body fat overall, you've got to really do overall muscle group exercises. So you can't spot tone, or you can spot tone, but you can't spot reduce. But if you want to reduce all over, you're going to need to do not just arm exercises, but you're going to need to do some of those squats, lunges, some presses, and some pulls for major muscle groups. Because as important as these arms are to you and me to look good, they're small muscle groups, so they're not going to change your metabolism. If you can boost your metabolism, burn fat all over better, you're going to see these muscles that you're prettying up with your tricep and bicep exercises. So that means in your workout 2 times or 3 with a day between Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or say Tuesday, Thursday, you're going to make sure that you're doing a push, a chest press, for instance, a pull, maybe a standing row or a bent over row, and a leg exercise. One of those squats or lunges, if you can, would be perfect. Make sure you're getting those in as well as those toning for those areas you really want to see the muscle definition in. Lastly, you can't exercise without eating right. So pay attention to, are you getting enough protein? Because that is what the muscles are made of. Making sure you get adequate protein after a workout, about an hour after a good moderate to vigorous workout, whether it's intense weights or it's intense cardio, will help you, especially if you're midlife or older, maintain your lean muscle mass. And part of the reason you may not be seeing that tone is you're just losing it. We lose it easier than we keep it as we get to be 40 and 50 and beyond, for sure. So you've got to have adequate calories and certainly adequate protein. That's not to ignore or discount. You need healthy fat and you need plenty of those antioxidants and anti-inflammatory fruits and especially vegetables. No one ever OD'd on vegetables. Promise you that you won't be the first. Those are my 5 tips, and if they were helpful, I'd love for you to leave us a comment, and if I forgot something, tell me what it is, and we'll answer that question next time. And I'll see you on the flip side.